And now it's time for a show and tell on yourself. I have a couple of things I'm going to share with you this morning. One of them is as close as I could get to a joke on Mother's Day from the senior news that I acquired in a hospital waiting room this week in a period of just sheer absolute boredom, having forgot my books at home. And the other, the tell on yourself part is, yeah, your minister, the kleptos, heisted this borrowed loan checked out from Slotsky's, so I've got to return it. But I knew there was a reason I needed to pick this up, and I'll share this with you later in the service. But here's the joke. A son's gift to mom. A woman lived alone in western Texas. She wanted to spade her potato garden, but it was very hard work. Her only son, Joe, who used to help her, was in prison. The woman wrote a letter to her son and described her predicament. Dear Joe, I'm feeling pretty bad because it looks like I won't be able to plant my garden this year. I'm just getting too old to be digging up a garden plot. If you were here, all my troubles would be over. I know you would dig the plot for me. Love, Mom. A few days later, she received a letter from her son. Dear Mom, for heaven's sakes, Mom, don't dig up that garden. That's where I buried the bodies. Love, Joe. At 4 a.m. the next morning, FBI agents and local police showed up and dug up the entire area without finding any bodies. They apologized to the lady and left. That same day, the lady received another letter from her son. Dear Mom, go ahead and plant the garden now. That's the best I could do under the circumstances. Well, here we are again at Mother's Day. There are 3 days in the year, really, that it's very uncomfortable for me being a minister. That's Mother's Day, Father's Day, and Memorial Day, for all very different reasons. You know, on Mother's Day, one more time, a man talking about femininity, womanhood, the feminine face of God, as if we have a clue. Like what the world needs is one more man talking about womanhood. And on Mother's Day, we hold this ideal of a woman being the mother, and a woman's crowning glory being her children. And there are women that have never born children who leave those services feeling diminished and somehow less than, as if they've missed their purpose, their reason for being. And there's people in every audience who hear Mother's Day messages and see mothers celebrated and grieve the fact that they didn't have one or didn't know theirs, or theirs was far from the ideal. There are those in every audience who are caring for an incapacitated mother. Those in every audience who in that year have buried their mother. There are mothers in the audience all too well aware that they had a very human, very messy relationship with their children, who feel that the ideal is not worthy of them. Strange message in Mother's Day, a message that can congratulate so many and leave so many others feeling less than and inferior. We live in a dichotomous world, like a peanut. We see the two pieces, we see the two halves, we see light and dark, we see male and female, we know cold and hot. yet so often we fail to see the whole. A peanut is not either half. The peanut is both halves. One complete, fully encapsulated whole. But our mind does what our mind does. It dissects, it sorts, it labels, it classifies, quantifies, and moves everything into its nice, comfy little cubby hole where it belongs. Our masculinity and femininity are much like that. We are each mother just as we are each father. We are each masculine just as we are each feminine. Mother's Day beckons to all of us. The first rumblings of Mother's Day began in the United States shortly after the Civil War. As women grieved what was the worst war known by the United States to that period. A war that ranked with the Napoleonic War, which was the worst the world had seen to that point, in sheer destruction and loss of life. A war in which no one was spared, male or female, young or old. A war which actually cost the civilian population in deaths and injuries greater than the combatants. And the mothers grieved, and the mothers vowed to remember. The call for Mother's Day was taken over by the temperance movement, who decried the prevalence of alcohol in society and the pain that inflicted on the young and the old, and women who were denied a place in the workforce, women who were fully dependent, women who lived in the ideal that being home, being the housewife, being the center of saintliness was her lot in life. In 1914, Woodrow Wilson finally signed the proclamation at the bequest of Congress establishing Mother's Day. This time when we remember those special spiritual beings who show up, who say yes to life, who take a profound risk and an optimistic leap of faith to carry and nurture another godling, another eternal soul, to give it life, to keep it safe, to nurture it and care for it more than for themselves, to provide for its welfare and its future. Through what is often great sacrifice to them. This feminine face of God is in each of us. Though mothers show up on this planet as direct spiritual expressions of that energy, their very presence challenges all of us to find that within us. To yield our will and our wants to nurture life. To give birth to something. To give birth to our authentic self, and to let that self give birth to the presence of God in real human form, right here, right now, in this time and place. Let me share with you a reading from the magazine I heisted. The article, The American Scholar, published by Phi Beta Kappa. The article, Strange